Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Thursday, July 9th, 2015. And here are some of today's trends in the news. Whew, another wild market day. Well, kind of yes and kind of no. Depends where you're from. Over there in China, boof, wah. Big day for the markets. In an effort to halt market collapse following a drop of some 6%, on Wednesday, China's security regulators made an extreme move to ban major investors holding over 5% of any listed company from cutting their stakes for 6 months. That's right. You're holding them stocks, can't sell them. What do they call them? China security regulators? Hey, OP, bullshit. It's all the same in every language, man. A rigged game. And as we wrote in yesterday's Trend Alert, Trends this week, the game is totally rigged. Any violation of the new rule will be treated seriously, the Chinese Security Regulator Commission announced. Seriously. What a fraud. Yeah, we'll make up the rules, and if you break them, we'll break you. Yeah, Communist China, USA, same old baloney, man. Neo-feudalism, separate rules for the rich. So, what happens? Stocks jump after China rebound. CNBC. U.S. stocks rebounded on Thursday from a recent decline as a jump in Chinese stocks overnight boosted investor sentiment. You know what that is.
Warning, warning, bullshit alert.
More bullshit every day, man. Boosted investor sentiment. They're rigging the market. So the Shanghai Composite shot up 5.8% higher on Thursday for its best day in 6 years after China instituted new supportive measures. Supportive measures, rigging the game, including restrictions on short selling and loosening of margin lending regulations. And they failed to mention the one that I said, that big companies, whether you're a foreign company or one over there, who's ever holding a lot of shares, you can't sell them. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average traded up 249 points at the opening. Yeah. And you know what they closed at? Up 33. And oil went up too. A couple of percent, on average 2% West Texas, and Mr. Brent. What else? Gold, shoop, down more. And along with other commodity prices, another story again in the Wall Street Journal, commodities plunge as Beijing cutback is feared. Two important industrial commodities, iron ore and aluminum, declined. Iron ore, a steel-making ingredient, fell to $44.10 per metric ton this week, the lowest price in just over a decade, from highs of $191 in 2011. Prices for aluminum have declined 10% since the beginning of the year, down 2% this week. Put the pieces together. Today's Financial Times, a little story down here. Chiles rebound stutters following reform and scandals. How's that for lingo, huh? Remember, Chile's biggest export is copper. Copper is the leading raw material, natural resource that's an indicator of industrial production. And just as those other commodities are going down, as we reported yesterday, so too is copper. So, if China is not buying this stuff, Chile is not exporting it. Chile's economic recovery is faltering as business confidence is undermined by President Michelle Bachelet's reform program and a political crisis triggered by corruption scandals. Same in every country. The government announced an abrupt downward revision of economic growth to 2.5% for 2015 on Monday, having initially predicted 3.6% in this year's budget. Growth of 1.9% in 2014 was the lowest since the global financial crisis, and it will go lower. If it was that in 2014, it's worse in 2015. Her approval rating, Bachelet's, reached a new low of 27% in June, after declining from 54% at the beginning of her second term as president, more than a year ago. And you look at some other news here in the Financial Times. Dollar rise poses threat to growth. An emerging nation, says the International Mafia Federation, commonly called by the White Shoe Gang the IMF. More gains by the dollar could leave U.S. growth significantly debilitated and have repercussions across the emerging markets, the International Monetary Fund warned. Continued appreciation of the dollar, which has risen more than 20% against a basket of key currencies, is in the past 12 months was, quote, a prominent risk because of growth divergence between the U.S. and other economies, the International Mafia Federation added, as its forecast for steady widening of the current account deficit toward 3.5% of gross domestic product over the rest of the decade. Whatever that means. Because IMF revises down 2015 global growth forecast. They do it all the time. How many times have I read this stuff? The IMF said today it trimmed down its expected global growth for 2015 to 3.3%, citing weaker than expected economic activity in North America, and the slowdown reflects the dampening impact of lower commodity prices and tighter external financial conditions, particularly in Latin America and oil exporters, the rebalancing in China, and structural bottlenecks, as well as economic distress related to geopolitical factors, particularly in the Commonwealth of Independent States and some countries in the Middle East and North Africa. So, there you got it. More downward revisions. A nice little story here worth reading in the Financial Times on the front page that not many people are talking about. Bosses at UBS knew I was rigging Libor. Trader nicknamed Rain Man tells court. Tom Hayes, the first person to face trial in the global investigation into the fixing of Libor, has admitted he asked colleagues at UBS, as well as traders and brokers at other firms, to help him rig the benchmark lending rate. But the British former trader insists on the first day of his defense that his managers were fully aware of what he was doing. Taking the stand, he said, quote, "Everything I did was with complete transparency. Everything I did, my managers knew about, sometimes going all the way up to the CEO." Too bad, Tom. CEOs don't get indicted for anything. When they're found guilty, they're given a slap on the wrist. You go to jail for the rest of them. It's the way of the world when the banksters are in control, as well as the multinationals. Justice, just us, hardly made the news. And speaking about injustice, U.S. Ukraine plan training. Oh no, this isn't from the World Socialist, it's from the Wall Street Journal. How's this? Ukraine-U.S. officials are making plans to expand the training of Ukraine military forces at a training base in the western part of the country. Ukrainian military official assholes said on Wednesday that they want to bring their conventional army troops and special operations forces to the training center run through the course taught by U.S. soldiers from the 173rd Airborne Brigade based in Italy. What are we doing with bases in Italy? Hey, we got to watch out. World War II just ended in 1945, you know? So we're still over there. Could you imagine if the Russians were doing this? The outward aggression by the United States, and no one cares. I care. We care. And that's why we want to occupy peace, because this madness will continue. Murder Incorporated, that's all they are. And speaking about Russia, Putin lays out big spread ahead of BRICS summit. Yeah, a little story over here. Russian President Vladimir Putin, seated center, hosted fellow leaders for an informal dinner ahead of a summit of the BRICS trade group that begins today. So, BRICS. The BRICS are crumbling. They got a lot of problems. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and of course South Africa. All countries that were growing while the economies were growing, particularly the natural resource-rich ones like Russia, like Brazil. So, and South Africa. It's not good news. And there's bad news going on even more because of the military madness. Britain vows to hit targets for spending on military. After months of pressure from the United States, Britain committed on Wednesday to meeting NATO's military spending target for the rest of the decade. The announcement follows protracted discussions with the British government and criticism from outside it. George Osborne, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, made a surprise promise to hit the NATO figure, quote, not just this year, but every year. We will ensure that this commitment is properly measured, because we know that while those commitments don't come cheap, the alternatives are far more costly. Yeah, what alternative? Peace? Can't you guys get over your colonial trip, man? Why don't you stay home rather than invading other countries, Mr. Chancellor Osborne? Osborne really is stupid. Osborne a moron. Osborne a maniac. Osborne a sociopath. Osborne a psychopath. One after another. You want to hear another moron shoot his mouth off? Why not? Because we love war. Donald Trump, I bombed the hell out of the oil fields. Great. He'll fix it. Yep. He bombed the hell out of the oil fields to control the Islamic State terrorist group. I would do things that would be so tough that I don't know if they'd be around to come to the table. I would take away all their wealth. I'd take away all their oil. Yeah, somebody should take you away in an insane asylum. Another fat mouth born on third base, man. Daddy laid the path out for him. And boy, does he talk tough. Yeah, you would be doing things that would be so tough. Hey, Donald, lead the charge. Lead the charge, fat mouth. You and Osborne and all the rest. Oh, what a tough guy he is, huh? Like all the rest of them. Talking tough while they send you to war. Hey, 4 million Syrian refugees. More bombing in Yemen. Everybody talks tough. Don't you just love war? It brings prosperity, doesn't it? It brings beauty and grace. It brings madmen like Trump out in front, all along with the rest of all the little fat mouths in the presidential reality show that have the solutions. More war brings more peace. Hey, listen to Osborne. Here he goes. The indispensability of the UK to global security. Yep. Guess what? The world will get on fine without the UK. UK, F you. This is Gerald Celente. And that's some of today's trends in the news.